3 years ago, I made a decision that changed the entire rhythm of my life. I left behind a large 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, filled with decades of belongings, and moved into a small, sunlit cottage much closer to town. At first, it felt like I was giving something up, but today, I see that I was making space for peace, for clarity, and for a simpler kind of joy. Now, sitting here in the stillness of my morning, sipping tea, I feel lighter than I have in years. Not just because of the move, but because of what I stopped doing. More specifically, what I stopped buying. After retiring, I realized that so many of my purchases were not about need. They were habits, reactions, even distractions. And without a full-time job tying me to a routine, I finally had the time and the perspective to ask myself, what truly adds value to my life? In this video, I want to share with you 10 things I no longer buy in retirement. Not to tell you what you should or should not do, but to offer a gentle reflection. You might find yourself in some of these examples, or they might inspire you to create your own list. Because the truth is, letting go of unnecessary spending was not about sacrifice, it was about freedom. And if you have ever felt overwhelmed by stuff, or by the pressure to keep up with others, I think this message may bring you the same peace it brought me. Let's begin. 1. Fast fashion. Why I let it go. There was a time when shopping was more than a habit. It was an emotional escape. I remember how often I would stop by the store just to pick up one thing, only to walk out with another sweater I did not need, another pair of shoes that looked lovely, but ended up sitting in the closet. It gave me a quick lift, a small thrill. But the feeling faded fast. And over time, what stayed was clutter, both in my home and in my heart. When I retired, that habit did not disappear overnight. In fact, the first year was the hardest. Suddenly, I had more time than ever before, but less structure and no professional reason to dress up every day. And still, the instinct to browse, to click add to cart, to look for the next thing, lingered. I asked myself, why am I buying this? Who am I trying to impress now? It was a quiet afternoon that finally changed things for me. I stood in front of my closet, packed with clothes, many of which still had tags on them, and I felt this deep sense of weariness. Not guilt, just exhaustion. From keeping up, from holding on to an identity I no longer needed. I realized that so many of those clothes were tied to the woman I used to be, a woman juggling work, family, expectations, and appearances. But now, I was ready to meet the woman I was becoming. So, piece by piece, I let things go. I donated bags of clothing to local shelters. I gave away shoes to my niece. I kept the items I genuinely loved. The jeans that fit well, the cardigan that feels like a hug, the blouse that makes me smile when I wear it. I also stopped buying just for the sake of buying. These days, I only shop when something needs replacing. And even then, I pause. I ask, is it comfortable? Is it timeless? Will I actually wear it? Letting go of fast fashion has made getting dressed feel simpler and more joyful. I no longer stress over what to wear. I wear what makes me feel like myself. And there's a quiet pride in knowing that my closet now reflects the life I actually live, not the life I felt I had to prove. 2. Excessive beauty products. A gentle goodbye. At one point, I had an entire drawer filled with creams, lotions, and serums promising miracles in tiny, expensive jars. Each product came with hope. Hope that maybe this one would make me look 5 years younger, erase that fine line, firm up that spot beneath my chin. But deep down, I knew the truth. No product was going to turn back time, and that realization didn't make me sad. It made me free. When I first stepped into retirement, I still held on to my old routine. cleanser, toner, serum, night cream, eye cream, spot treatment, moisturizer, primer, foundation, the works. It was what I knew. It gave me a sense of control. But one morning, after applying layer after layer in front of the mirror, I looked at myself and realized, I don't need all this anymore. I don't want it. I don't even enjoy it. So I began to simplify, not out of rebellion, but out of respect, for my time, for my skin, for myself. I cut down my routine to the essentials: a gentle cleanser, a nourishing moisturizer, and some sunscreen. Maybe a bit of tinted lip balm on days when I go out. My skin did not suffer. In fact, it thanked me. It looked calmer, healthier, and less irritated. And I felt better too, lighter. There's something deeply empowering about accepting the face you see in the mirror, not with judgment, but with gratitude. Every line, every wrinkle, these are the marks of laughter, of love, of living. We do not have to erase them to be beautiful. We simply have to honor them. Today, I still care for my appearance, but in a softer, kinder way. I no longer chase trends or try to match unrealistic standards. I embrace the natural glow that comes from joy, from rest, from feeling confident in who I am. I'm not trying to be who I was at 40. I am trying to be fully present at 70. And that, to me, is the most radiant beauty of all. 3. Trendy home decor. Finding meaning in simplicity. I used to believe that every season needed its own look. Spring called for florals and pastel colors. Summer brought out nautical stripes and seashell candles. Autumn meant pumpkins, plaids, and warm-toned wreaths. And Christmas, well, let's just say I had an entire closet devoted to holiday decorations alone. Every year, I would buy a few more items just to freshen things up. But the truth is, my home started to feel more like a display room than a sanctuary. It took me a while to understand why. When I retired and moved into a smaller home, I realized that I was no longer decorating for guests, or for tradition, or even for family. I was decorating for myself. And the truth is, I did not need all that stuff to feel at home. In fact, the less I had, the more peaceful my space became. I started letting go of decor that served no purpose other than looking seasonal. I donated bins of faux pumpkins and glittery snowflakes. I sold extra lamps, picture frames, table runners, and wall signs that said things like, "Live, laugh, love." I kept the items that meant something to me: the handmade quilt from my sister, the ceramic mug my grandson painted, the candle holder I bought during a trip to Vermont. These were not just decorations. They were memories, anchors of warmth and identity. Now, when you walk into my home, you will not see the latest trends. You will see a space that feels like me, calm, lived in, meaningful. My favorite corner has a soft chair, a small reading lamp, and a side table that once belonged to my mother. It is not Pinterest perfect, but it is mine. And I find that guests linger longer, conversations flow more easily, and I breathe more deeply here. Letting go of trendy home decor has made room for what really matters: comfort, connection, and peace. My home no longer needs to impress, it just needs to embrace. And that is more than enough for me. Chapter 4. Social obligations I did not enjoy. Learning the power of no. For much of my adult life, I said yes to almost everything. Church events, committee meetings, charity luncheons, birthday dinners, volunteer drives, you name it, I was there. At first, it felt like I was doing the right thing. I was being helpful, involved, available. But somewhere along the way, my calendar began to feel more like a list of expectations than a list of joys. After I retired, I imagined I would finally have time for myself. Quiet mornings, slow afternoons, maybe even naps in the sun. But instead, I found myself busier than ever. I had simply filled the space once taken by work with new obligations. Many of them were lovely on the surface, but they left me drained. I realized I was still living my life according to what others needed, without asking myself what I truly wanted. The turning point came on a Saturday when I was double booked. Again. A neighbor's brunch and a community craft fair. Both things I had agreed to weeks earlier with a smile, but neither of which I actually wanted to attend. I felt tired before I even left the house. That morning, I paused. I looked at my planner and asked a question that changed everything. What would happen if I just said no? It felt radical, uncomfortable even. But I did it. I called and politely declined. I stayed home. I read a book. I took a walk. I made tea and sat outside listening to the wind in the trees. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. That was the beginning of my new rule. If something does not bring joy, purpose, or true connection, I give myself permission to say no. These days, I choose my social commitments with care. I still volunteer, but only in ways that fill me up. I still attend gatherings, but only when I truly want to be there. I have found that when I show up out of choice, rather than obligation, I am more present, more kind, and more fulfilled. Retirement has taught me that time is not just a resource, it is a gift. And choosing how to spend it is one of the most loving things I can do for myself. Saying no does not make me rude or selfish. It makes me free. 5. Buying gifts. Just to give something, choosing meaning over materials. I used to believe that giving gifts was an obligation. Every birthday, holiday, housewarming, graduation, I felt the pressure to wrap up something, anything, just to check the box. It felt impolite to show up empty-handed. So I bought candles, scarves, mugs with cute sayings, picture frames, and gift cards. Sometimes the gifts were thoughtful. Other times, they were just things. But as the years went by, I started to notice something. The people I loved already had more than enough, and so did I. The shelves were full, the drawers were full, the closets were full. And more often than not, those well-meaning gifts ended up collecting dust, passed along, or donated a year later. When I retired, my relationship with giving changed. I no longer had the income to spend freely, and I no longer wanted to. I also began to crave something deeper, not just in what I gave, but in how I connected. So I made a quiet decision. I would stop giving physical gifts just because and start giving something more meaningful, my presence. Instead of a scented candle, I offer a Sunday brunch together. Instead of a wrapped package, I send a handwritten letter. For my granddaughter's birthday, I take her to a pottery class and we create something side by side. For my sister, a weekend getaway where we walk, talk, and share stories. These are not just gifts, they are memories in the making. With my immediate family, we have created a beautiful new tradition. No one gives physical gifts anymore. We give experiences, a massage, a spa day, a cooking class, a concert, or simply time shared. The joy lasts longer. The connection feels deeper. And there is no need for wrapping paper. This shift has been one of the most freeing parts of retirement. It removed the pressure and replaced it with intention. Now, every gift I give is rooted in love, not obligation. And I have found that people remember the shared moments far more than any item I could have bought them. Sometimes, the best gift we can give is ourselves. 6. The newest tech. Letting go of the urge to upgrade. I remember the first time I bought a smartphone. It felt like magic. I could take pictures, send messages, read the news, play music, and even video call my son, all from the palm of my hand. That sense of wonder stuck with me for years. And before I knew it, I had fallen into the cycle. A new phone every 2 years, the latest tablet, a smart speaker, fitness trackers, noise-canceling headphones. The list went on. I justified the purchases. It's faster. It has a better camera. This one is more efficient. And maybe that was true. But each new device also came with more cords, more updates, more learning curves, and more stress. Eventually, I started asking myself, is this making my life easier or just busier? After retiring, I took a closer look at my tech habits. I realized that I was spending hundreds, sometimes thousands, of dollars a year on upgrades I barely used to their full potential. My phone was filled with apps I never opened. My tablet sat untouched for weeks. And the newest gadget often felt obsolete just a few months later. So I made a quiet choice. I would stop chasing the latest tech. I would keep what worked and replace only when necessary. That was 3 years ago. Today, I still use a phone that is several models old. It calls, it texts, it takes lovely pictures of my garden. And that is enough. I no longer scroll through tech reviews or feel the urge to keep up. There is a beautiful calm that comes from using what you already have. I have fewer cords, fewer chargers, fewer frustrations, and I have more time, more space, more presence in the real world. Technology should serve us, not the other way around. I am not anti-tech. I am simply pro-purpose. If something adds genuine ease or joy to my life, I welcome it. But I no longer confuse new with better. And in this stage of life, I find myself drawn to simplicity, not screens. Letting go of the need to upgrade has helped me reconnect with myself, with others, and with the present moment. And that kind of connection, no device can replace it. 7. CDs, DVDs, and books. Trading clutter for connection. There was a time when I loved collecting things, especially media. My living room shelves were lined with DVDs of every romantic comedy and classic film I had ever adored. In the hallway, I kept a tall rack stacked with CDs, everything from Barbra Streisand to Patsy Cline, from jazz to gospel. And let's not even talk about my bookcases. I had novels I planned to read someday, cookbooks I had only flipped through once, and self-help books that made me feel productive just by owning them. In those years, it felt comforting to be surrounded by so many familiar titles. Each one represented something, a memory, a phase, an aspiration. But as time passed and my home became more crowded, I began to feel something I had not expected, tired. Not physically tired, but emotionally burdened by the sheer volume of stuff that was supposed to bring me joy. When I retired and downsized, I had to make some hard choices. My new space simply could not hold my entire media library. So I sat down one afternoon and began sorting through it all. At first, it was hard, letting go of the movie I used to watch with my kids or the album I played during Sunday cleanups. But then something shifted. I realized that the memories lived in me, not in the object. And if I wanted to relive them, I still could, thanks to streaming. These days, I listen to music through one simple speaker and a subscription to a music service. I can pull up my favorite hymns or a playlist from the 1970s with a voice command. For movies, I stream what I want, when I want. No more scratched discs, broken cases, or rewinding. And as for books, I still love to read, but now I borrow from the local library or pick up gently used ones at a charity shop. When I am done, I pass them along. Letting go of my collection was not about giving up what I loved. It was about making room for what I value now. A tidy shelf, a quiet evening, and the ability to sit down with a good story, free from the pressure of owning more. Sometimes, we hold on to things because they meant something to us then. But when we make space for the life we live now, something beautiful happens. We remember that what we truly love is not the item, it is the feeling. And that, thankfully, takes up no space at all. 8. Fancy travel packages. Finding joy in simpler journeys. Once upon a time, travel was a big event. I would spend weeks planning the perfect vacation, complete with luxury hotels, guided tours, and full itineraries. I believed that the more polished the experience, the more memorable it would be. I wanted the best view, the best meals, the best service. And to be honest, sometimes it was wonderful. But it was also exhausting and expensive. After I retired, I assumed I would travel more. After all, I finally had the time. But something shifted. The idea of airports, suitcases, schedules, and 5-star everything started to feel heavy. I began to wonder, what if travel could be slower, simpler? What if I did not need luxury to feel alive? That question led me to try something different. Instead of a prepackaged trip to Europe, I booked a small cottage near the coast, just a few hours from home. I brought books, packed simple clothes, and spent most days walking by the water, cooking fresh meals, and writing postcards to old friends. There was no itinerary, just time. And for the first time, I came home from a trip feeling rested. That experience changed everything. I no longer chase bucket list destinations. I look for places that offer peace, not prestige. A nearby cabin, a quiet bed and breakfast, a day trip to a botanical garden. These small escapes bring me more joy than any cruise or all-inclusive resort ever did. Travel, for me now, is about being, not just going. It is about connecting with nature, with people, and with myself. I still travel with family from time to time, but the focus has shifted. Instead of seeing the most sights, we take our time. We laugh more. We eat slowly. We come home with hearts full, not credit card bills. Letting go of fancy travel packages was not about settling for less. It was about choosing better. Better sleep, better memories, better presence. At this stage of life, I do not need 5-star hotels to feel rich. I feel rich when I sit by a lake with a cup of tea, hear the wind in the trees, and know I am exactly where I want to be. 9. Buying out of guilt. Breaking the cycle. For years, I bought things not because I needed them, or even wanted them, but because I felt I should. A friend invited me to a home party? I bought something to be polite. My granddaughter sold wrapping paper for school? I ordered more than I needed. I was feeling down one day? I picked up a new blouse, thinking it would lift my mood. Sometimes, I even bought gifts for people just because, to make up for missing a lunch or forgetting to call. It took me a long time to realize what was happening. I was trying to buy peace of mind. I used shopping to soothe discomfort, ease guilt, and maintain social expectations. But instead of relief, I often ended up with regret, and another item I did not really want cluttering my house. When I retired, my income shifted, and so did my perspective. I could no longer afford to spend out of guilt. I had to be more mindful. And strangely, that financial boundary became a spiritual one too. I began to ask myself, before every purchase, is this an act of love or an act of fear? That simple question changed everything. I stopped apologizing with gifts. I stopped buying something small just to ease my conscience. I began showing up in other ways, with a call, a visit, a handwritten note. I discovered that what people really want is connection, not things. I also stopped shopping as therapy. On days when I feel lonely, I take a walk, call a friend, or spend time in the garden. It is not always easy, but it is always more healing. I learned that no amount of spending could fix what needed to be felt. And over time, the urge to shop out of guilt faded. Letting go of guilt-based spending brought unexpected peace. My home feels lighter. My relationships feel more honest. And I no longer measure my worth by how much I give or how well I perform. I simply try to live with love and let that be enough. Because at this stage of life, I have learned, true generosity is not found in what we buy. It is found in how we show up. 10. Time-saving gadgets. Slowing down on purpose. There was a time when I believed every gadget was the answer to a problem I did not even realize I had. I owned an electric can opener, a special avocado slicer, an egg peeler, a drawer full of tiny machines that promised to make life easier. I even bought one of those devices that folded t-shirts perfectly, though I still ended up folding them the old-fashioned way. Each gadget seemed clever, efficient, convenient. And yet, over time, I noticed something strange. My kitchen drawers were overflowing, my cabinets were packed, and somehow, despite all these time-saving tools, I never actually felt like I had more time. If anything, I was spending more time looking for the right charger, cleaning tiny parts, or reading the instructions. Again. After retirement, life naturally slowed down. I no longer had deadlines or back-to-back appointments, so I started questioning things. Why am I rushing to slice vegetables faster? What is the hurry? I had spent so many years running, multitasking, keeping up, but now I had the gift of time, and I realized I was still treating it like it was slipping away. That realization shifted everything. I began decluttering my gadgets. One by one, I donated or gave away anything I had not used in 6 months. I asked myself, can I do this task with my hands? Does this tool add joy, or just more parts to clean? Suddenly, cooking became simpler. My drawers opened with ease. My countertops were clear. I was not just saving space, I was reclaiming peace. And here is the beautiful part. I actually began enjoying the tasks I used to rush through, chopping onions while listening to music, washing dishes slowly while watching the sunset from my kitchen window, folding laundry while humming my favorite hymn. These quiet moments became a kind of meditation. They grounded me. Letting go of time-saving gadgets taught me something deeper. Just because something is faster does not mean it is better. Sometimes, the slow way is the meaningful way, the way that brings us back to ourselves, the quiet joy of living with less. Looking back over these 10 things I no longer buy, I see more than just a list of purchases. I see a shift in values, a quiet, gradual turning away from things that used to define me and toward a life that feels more honest, more intentional, more whole. Retirement did not just change my schedule, it changed my soul. It invited me to listen more closely to what I actually need, not what I was told to need, not what everyone else is doing, but what this version of me, the one who has lived through decades of joy, loss, love, and learning, now wants to carry forward. And the truth is, I want to carry less stuff, less noise, less guilt, less pressure to perform or impress. And in letting go of those things, I have made space for so much more peace, more presence, more connection, more delight in small, ordinary moments.